There was something sitting on the side of the road. I don't know what it was, but it had red, piercing eyes looking right at us. I'm talking laser red.
Welcome back to the iJupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we have on the wonderful Anna Caywood Jones. She is an author and a cryptid investigator. Good friends with Bart and Nunley. She just told me she's known him for 20 years. So that would be, I would say, a good measuring stick for being a friend with somebody if you've known the person for. She said back to the MySpace days, so that's fantastic. If you keep finding yourself coming back to the iJupiter podcast, do me a favor and like and subscribe if you like what I put out there. I appreciate each and every one of you. We are at 1,380 subs or something like that, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So do me a favor and do that. You can also find me on Rumble. You can also find me on Spotify as well as Spreaker. If you're on Spotify, please do me a favor, leave me a rating. You can catch the show every Tuesday at 5:30 Eastern time, or every Friday at 6:45 Eastern time. We have a live show, so it's 2 shows a week. There's a members thing that you can be a member on YouTube, and you get some stuff early. You can support me any way you want to, but the best way to do that is just to go ahead and download my stuff and share it as much as you like, and let me know what you think about it. If you want some t-shirts, you can do that as well. All the links down in the description below. If you want to go ahead and get yourself, you get a Bigfoot shirt from your mom for her birthday, it's down there as well. I appreciate that. So with all that out of the way, let's welcome to the show Anna Caywood Jones.
Hey.
Hi. So you and I were having technical difficulties for about 21 minutes. And I literally went on Facebook Live real quick to see if it was me, but it just, I went out, came back in, and then when you went out and came back in, it finally worked. I'm so glad you're here, and please, tell me a little bit about yourself, where we can find you, and what got you into, what you're doing.
Okay. My name's Anna, and I have had lifelong paranormal experiences from the time I was very, very young. And I grew up during a time where you didn't talk about it. If you had these experiences, like I was a kid in the 70s, I was a teen in the 80s, there wasn't a lot on TV to watch like there is now. And I did not know what was going on with all the paranormal experiences that was happening in my life. So finally, as I reached adulthood, there were more things available to at least research. And I was looking for answers. I needed answers with so many things that I was going through. And for a long time, I wanted to join a paranormal group here in central Kentucky because that's where I live. But I was scared because I was afraid of attachments.
Right.
I was so worried about that. So it kept me from joining anybody. And so I didn't for the longest time. I just started doing my research and learning. And that is how I ended up meeting Bart. I knew Jan Thompson, who told the story that was told by her by the police officers about the 82 massacre in LBL. And from there, I just began learning and trying to understand. And also, I thought this was always really interesting. I'm RH negative.
Okay. Yeah, I know
I
about that. Oh, yeah.
I needed answers about that one. That kind of blew my mind when I started having kids and I had to go get a shot, because if I didn't and my baby was RH positive, then my body was going to try to attack it and kill my unborn child. That made no sense to me whatsoever. So that was a big journey for me, trying to figure that one out, because that makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I never did get the first few years I was researching that. I never did get an answer that satisfied me personally. Every time I was looking it up online, it was just answers that didn't fit with what I thought could be happening. And because I am a Christian and I do believe in Jesus Christ, I needed biblical answers. Was I going to find a biblical answer to that? And that was another rabbit hole. So it has been a long journey trying to figure that out, but I do feel like I have found the answers on that. It's been a 3-year study for me on the fallen angels. And
Okay.
also during that time is when I took a trip to the LBL and camped in August of 2022. Now, I knew about the LBL because I knew Jan Thompson. I had talked with her in the early 2000s quite often. We had many conversations. She was one of the people that helped me learn more about the paranormal. Barton Nunley also, he always gave me great advice whenever I reached out to him if I had questions. And then I took that trip to LBL. And honestly, most of my experiences were in what most people would just box in as just paranormal. I hadn't had like a cryptid sighting per se until I went to the LBL in August of 22. And that was a weekend I will never forget. I had been to the LBL one other time years earlier. I think it was in 2012. My daughter was in high school. We just went over spring break and we just did all the touristy stuff down there. It wasn't getting out in the woods and checking things out. So, but I knew about the massacre site, but I didn't go look for it during that time. It was just a spring vacation with the kids at that time. And so when I went in August of 2022, that scared me. That entire weekend, we were terrified. We stayed at Boswell Landing, which is on let me get it right, the south end of Kentucky, but the northern end of Tennessee. Boswell Landing is actually on the Tennessee side.
And this is off the Trace Road.
Yes, right off the Trace. The Trace is about 40 miles long. And it starts up at Grand Rivers. That's a city up in the north, and it's a cute little town, touristy town. And then you drive the Trace all the way down on the Tennessee side, and we stayed at Boswell Landing. This is a primitive type campground. You better bring your stuff or you ain't going to have nothing.
It's the kind of camping I like.
I mean, it was literally, you had a gravel pad, you had a picnic table, and you had a fire ring. So if you didn't bring wood, if you didn't bring your own lights, there's no lights out there, nothing. That's it. So it was really primitive.
You gotta have one of those solar shower bags that you hang up. Because I did all my camping in Europe. Yeah, you get a little black bag. You hang in a tree. You hang it in a tree. Leave it out there in the day a little bit, and then you take it. Oh, be careful though, because they will light you up if you leave them out there in the direct zone for too long. So, I know though. I've done some camping. Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was really my first experience with what I would consider cryptid or inhumanoid, as Bart likes to classify them.
Okay.
So I'll just tell you what I saw while I was down there. This was a weird weekend. We had a full moon, and it was the Perseid meteor showers. It was the August meteor showers were going on
Oh,
during that weekend.
the torrid meteor showers there in August and I think January.
It was, you know, it was really powerful down there, you know, with all
Yeah.
that going
Oh,
on.
yeah, dude. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it was shoo. So anyway, there's a graveyard right beside Boswell Landing as you come into that campground. There's a lot of Civil War history down there. You're right beside Fort Thomas. And Fort Donelson is down there. There is a small Civil War cemetery just up the road from this campground. So much history, a lot of bloodshed in that area. And also, there's the Dogman Trail in that campground, and I didn't know about it at that time at
Dogman
all.
Trail. I've never heard
Yeah,
of that.
it's called the Dogman Trail. I believe it's in the second book. He talks and what happened to a mom and her kids and their dogs while they were camping down there on that Dogman Trail. So that night, we picked a campsite that was directly across from this cemetery. So, I mean, we're within just 10 steps. So as soon as we pulled in and we're trying to get set up, we're seeing red orbs in that cemetery. We back up to the woods. There's nothing in there. There's no houses. There's nothing in there. It's just all woods. Except if you walk far enough, you're going to run into that Civil War cemetery. I started seeing white orbs in the woods. And I was like, what are we in for? What's getting ready to happen? So I'm kind of empathic. So I was feeling it get heavy. And when they say that it gets dark in the LBL, I'm telling you, it gets dark. It's a eerie, very inky darkness in those woods. So the sun was coming down as we were trying to get our camp set up. A camping friend, she went over to the cemetery just to look around. I didn't go because I didn't have a headlamp. It was the first time I had actually done any type of primitive camping in years. So this was my first time. I really wanted to go, and I've been in a car accident that crushed me from the waist down. So I didn't want to go walking in unfamiliar territory when I didn't have a headlamp, enough light to light my way, because I sure as heck didn't want to fall and get hurt down there in the middle of nothing.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I stayed back and I sat on the picnic table. The woods are in front of me. Over to my right is the cemetery. So as I'm sitting on this picnic table and the dark is drawing down, it's getting dark, sun's setting over the lake, and my friend is in the cemetery looking around, and all of a sudden I see a figure. I did not hear the footsteps, but it came out of the woodline and stood there. It looked like a figure, like a shadow entity, because I didn't see any details. I didn't see any eyes. I didn't see any fur. It did not make any noise. There were no smells, but it had the exact outline of your classic Bigfoot shape. It had that cone head, really broad shoulders, and then about waist down, it just kind of blended into the darkness of the woods.
Wow.
And I watched it, and the angle where I was sitting on that picnic table, I could keep my eye on the cemetery where my camping friend was, but turn my eyes, not my head, but turn my eyes to see what this figure was doing. That's the angle I had. And I started questioning myself because it didn't move and it didn't make any noise. It was like looking at one of those metal cutouts of Bigfoot that people have.
I've heard of this before. Yeah. Where
That's
people
what it
see it
looked
and they're
like.
like, they see it and they're like, is that what is that? I'm cut out on the side of the road. And the next thing you know, they get a little closer and it's like, no, oh my God. So yeah, I understand.
Is what it looked like to me. Only a lot of those cutouts are like a side profile, and this was just the thing was facing me. I could tell it was facing me because of the wide shoulders, the way the shoulders were. So I'm scared, but because I've had such a lifetime of paranormal activity in my life, I have learned, for me personally, that if you give it attention, makes it stronger. So I didn't want to project that towards it. So I was keeping an eye on my friend. She had a headlamp on. I was starting to question myself because it wasn't moving. She comes across the road, and as she's stepping across that road, this thing turned its head towards her and made like a step towards her. And
Wow.
my heart sank into my stomach. And about that time, her headlamp swished across right where it was, and there was nothing there.
Oh my, that's so scary. And
That
being
was
darker than
scary. And that was
that,
just the
being darker
beginning
than
of that
dark
night.
stuff. Yeah, people don't realize that. Like the darker than dark thing is so amazing because like I think there was a power outage in LA like in the 90s sometime, and the telephone lines still work. So they had like hundreds and hundreds of calls on 911 going, "What's all those lights in the skies?" Because but they were seeing the stars. You know what I mean? That darker than dark stuff is incredible. The darkest place I've
Mhm.
ever been to. This place is pretty dark where I am too. I'm on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. If you don't know,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm in the jungle, way out there. The darkest I've ever seen was behind a mountain in Fort Irwin, California. When I was there, I was actually there during September 11th. I was doing desert training at the NTC, and we're like, we're gonna go out there. And we pulled out. Okay, we're going to go to night mode, and then they go. I got out the truck for I don't know 2 minutes and looked up, and it was just. It is. You can't see the hand in front of your face.
Mhm.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So like in the LBL it's like a what is a wildlife management area or like a state
Yeah,
park or
it's a Bureau of Land Management area, the
okay.
BLM area. Yeah. So they don't let you take firearms in there. They got big signs up on the trace telling you don't take firearms in.
Wonder
And
why,
which
right?
is, yeah,
Makes you
makes
wonder
you
why,
wonder
right?
why. Yeah, I know it.
It's a notorious place. It's a notorious place. I keep running into so many people who've been there, and it's just the oddest place. I watched some small town monster stuff with
Yeah.
the story of I keep thinking of Barton Nunley, but I'm thinking of the other guy, the guy who was
Martin.
what is Martin Groves, yes. And I
Martin.
listened,
Yeah.
yeah, I've listened to that story on Tony Merkel's podcast like 4 times, and
Yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
just one of
I've
those
been in the
places.
LBL with Martin multiple times.
Yeah, yeah. What can you tell me about going in there? Because I'm an empath person myself. I've never been in like any type of
Okay.
serious situations because I can always tell
Yeah.
something is about to happen and I leave before. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. The LBL. Do you know much of the history of LBL?
I know a little bit about it. I know it used to be like a settled area. It was actually
Yeah.
originally the land between two rivers, and then
Yeah.
they wanted to make like a hydroelectric situation, and they were going to
Yeah.
maintain it, but they never did. And a lot of families had to get out of there, and a lot of
Yeah.
cemeteries are there, and a lot of even a lot of the houses, and even some of the small little towns and things are like underwater. So it's kind of
Yeah.
there's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of like
Absolutely.
weirdness there, right? So
Absolutely.
also heard something really interesting too. Like there was like some beast of in France that was like a dog man that they ended up like killing, and the person
Yeah.
who bought a piece of land also bought the piece of land. Who killed the beast
A
also bought a
Frenchman.
piece of land in the LBL back in the day. So it's a really weird place.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very odd. And as an empath going in there, you feel the hurt and the anger as soon as you get into the wooded areas. When you're in Grand Rivers, the little city that's up on the north end, you
Mhm.
really don't feel it. It's after you cross over that bridge onto the trace, and as soon as those woods envelop you, whether you're just driving the trace during the daytime or what, you start feeling it. There are multiple slave cemeteries in there. There are
Wow.
Chinese slave cemeteries in there. Um,
Wow.
Yes, yes, there were Chinese immigrants that were there that worked the iron furnaces, that were there before the government came in with eminent domain and took people's homes. They took their businesses. They would bulldoze them down and burn them. I mean, it was horrible what they did. And there's also a Native American presence in the LBL. The Chickasaw
Oh,
Indians were there before the people that were there that got kicked out by our government with eminent domain. So you can see mounds if you're looking, if you know what they look like, you can see those in there. You can see Indian tree markers in there. I've been doing a lot of research on the history of that, trying to dig a little deeper, further back. Um, but yeah, it's a very sad place. It's a very sad place. And
wow. And it's not very,
that
it's not
technology,
kept up very well either. As far as I'm understanding, it's not kept up very well either. They don't really maintain it that well.
not real well. They promised the descendants of the families that were kicked out of there. They promised them that they would always have access to the cemeteries of their loved ones. They moved a lot of the cemeteries to higher
Oh,
ground, or they were supposed to have. There's some that you can see when Winterpool, when they lower the lake level.
right.
Birmingham is the name of the town, and there is a couple of gravestones that come up out of the water during Winterpool because it's lower, the water's lower, and you can see them. Yeah, so they didn't move all of them, but there's over 270 cemeteries along that 40-mile stretch
That's a
of the
lot, dude.
trace.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a
It's a
lot. That's a lot.
it's a very unique area. Then that's incredible. And then, another interesting. You were telling me, like, okay, you seen, okay, your first Bigfoot sighting. I don't know if you've had more, but it's at a cemetery.
It
I
was
do
at a
know that.
cemetery, absolutely.
I do know that, for example, for some reason, dogmen seems to show up at cemeteries. Like, it seems to
Yeah.
be like the thing that they do. I don't know
Yes.
what that is. And being that, what did you say? 45 cemeteries? No, 200. What did you say?
There are over 270 cemeteries along that 40 miles of the trace. And there are just roads everywhere. Some of them are locked and gated off. You can't get back there. Some of them are dirt roads. Some of them are gravel roads. They're not maintained that well, but they did promise the descendants of the families that lived there that they would always have a clear path to get to their family cemeteries. And sometimes some of those are not even maintained.
Right.
I think a lot of the families have to go in and do it themselves at times.
Right. Sorry, my friend came home. So I'm like, hey. When normally she comes in a lot later. This is amazing. I'm glad she's here. Yeah, so you were telling me that you're an author.
Yes.
Tell me about your books. What are you writing about?
I write a little bit of everything. I write fiction and nonfiction. I have a novel that was published in 2005. It was a sci-fi romance. And then I have a lot of short stories written. A lot of them are paranormal. One of the short stories you can find on Amazon, and it's called The Promise by A.J. Caywood. That's my pen name. And that is a retelling of what happened to my mother when my biological father died 2 months before I turned 2 years old, and she was pregnant with my brother. And there were major paranormal events that surrounded us during that time of our life. And my mom brought my brother home from the hospital. It was, even though I was young and I don't really remember the details of that point in time, it was a very terrifying time for my mother.
Okay.
And so it's a short story, so it's only like 18 pages or something like that. But when you read that, you're reading what actually happened to us during that time.
Wow. And you've
And it
had
just, the
yeah, I'm sorry. We're trying to get the time. There's a
oh,
little
you're
bit of a
fine.
lag. Yeah, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Uh, so you've had paranormal situations your whole life? Like,
Yeah.
could you tell me a little bit about how it started, or what happened? Like, where it made you feel that you can't reach out and talk to somebody?
Um, Well, part of it was my parents. When my mom remarried, I was 4.5. And my
Okay.
stepdad was a wonderful man, but he did not believe in the paranormal at all. And he didn't want to hear it. Now, he wasn't mean about it, but he was just like, oh, that was a bad dream. Quit talking about that. So my mom would always say, well, just don't talk about it. So I wasn't allowed to talk about things that happened to me. Now, if it was a major event, there were times that I would see entities in my bedroom at night. And if they scared me to the point where I would scream out, my mom would come in. But also, like, if I had gone to like my counselor at school during that time, they would have just said, you need to go to have a little straitjacket. That's just
Yeah.
the way things were during those times. You really couldn't talk to people about it. But starting from a very young age, my parents really delved into the paranormal, and I think that's where it came from. I believe my mother has a lifelong attachment to this day. My mother is
Wow.
85 years old. Yeah, to this day, my mother's 85. She lives alone in the home that she's lived in for over 40 years. And she talks about seeing people in the house, a little demon that sits on her bed frame and hisses at her. I mean, yeah, major stuff. Major stuff. And this has gone on most of my life. That's why I needed answers and to
Yeah.
understand, because it was terrifying for me growing up. Now, I'm not saying it happened like every night, but it was a consistency through my childhood. Now, when I got married and moved away from my mom, it calmed down.
Right. Right. I had a poltergeist encounter multiple times when my half sister came over when I was 8. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I understand exactly where you're coming from. So many times, you would hear just the house settle, it would be nothing, but it would make you jump out of your pants, or the door would move because of the wind, which is, my deck is just the wind, you can see it moving. And then you can see
Yeah.
that the window was opening in the bedroom and therefore the door's moving. So like it always puts you on edge, and then you have no one to listen to you. And that's it's just an awful feeling. And it's kind of
Yeah.
cool that at least later on in life, that you are kind of slowly getting some answers through your religion, as well as doing your own. So what do you do? You're an author and you also do investigations? What is it that you do?
Yeah. For me, mainly, there's two areas that I like to go to investigate, and it's, of course, the LBL, because I started after having that weekend there. Um, that was crazy because there was more stuff that happened over that
Yeah,
weekend.
tell me, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's go into that.
All righty. So
Okay, this is a what they call like a salad bar of conversation. We'll make it work.
there we go.
Do you want an omelet with ham, or do you want like what do you want? We'll make it
Yeah,
work.
for a little this and a little that, you got
Yeah,
it
yeah.
all.
Oh, normally there's like a plot and a theme, and then you get to the apex of the story, Tom, and but no, that's not what I'm doing today.
But yeah, that night after I saw what we already seen corpse started off for, and then I don't even know what to call it because it was a typical Bigfoot sighting. It was like a shadow in the shadow. So a lot of times I answer that when people say sighting because mine was a classic thing. But that I was terrified. Like I said, I grew up with parents, and to me, that felt paranormal. That like animal coming out to investigate, it didn't feel that way to me at all. So we went to bed and I slept in the back of a seat. My camping friend slept in her own tent. And in the middle, it was probably about midnight. Moon's full. We've got a meteor shower going. and we hear this howl along with the coyotes that is deep. It's a deep chested howl. This thing had to be huge for the type of howl that we heard. And we heard it along with the coyotes, which is, from my understanding, kind of typical. You'll hear those
Right.
howls with the coyotes. So
Yeah.
we heard that, and it was a very long howl too. Now, the LBL does have the red wolf, but they're a small wolf. No, this was not the capacity of a small wolf. This thing was huge, and we were absolutely shocked that we heard that. So I'm sleeping in the back of this Jeep. I'm terrified. I'm looking out the window watching this meteor shower because it was a beautiful weekend. And I see a shadow figure come up to the side of the Jeep. Now, you can buy like felt or netting window panels for camping, for car camping. That way you can roll your window down, but you put this netting up and it keeps the bugs from coming in. So it blacked out the back window. But there was a small window at the hatch area. And whatever this was, and I'm thinking it was what I had seen earlier, but I didn't hear any footsteps, but it was rocking back and forth.
Right.
Looking in that window, like trying to look through a keyhole, looking in that little window. And I saw that and I was like, nope. So I turned over with my back to it. Now I know some people will be like, well, why'd you turn your back to it? But for me, that was blocking it out. That was me blocking that out.
It makes complete sense to me. It's the same thing you do when you pull the sheets up over your head. Like, well, I'm not here no more. It's natural for some reason. Yeah, I understand. Believe me, I understand you.
Right. So that's what I did. And later through the night, my camping friend, something brushed her tent right by her head. Now we're on a gravel pad. You can hear the daggone squirrels walking across that gravel pad. So whatever it was made no noise on the gravel pad we were camping on.
Wow.
The next day, we decided to hit a couple of these little gravel roads that you can go down. And we saw shadow figures in the middle of the day during sunshine in the woods.
Right.
I saw it visually, and I started taking pictures with my phone. And my camping friend, she was looking at where I was seeing it, but she couldn't visually see it. She started taking pictures with her phone. The pictures showed up, the shadow figure in her pictures that she couldn't see visually, but what I was seeing visually did not show up in my pictures.
Is this the ones that you showed, that you sent me?
And that one, no, this is different. Yeah, this is different. And that was weird. Like it's manipulating what you're saying in electronics. She could sit on the camera, and that was weird.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of distortion. I don't know what it is. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of distortion. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm getting a lot of distortion. It's weird today. I think it's.
Uh-huh.
I think there's certain people I talk to, Anna. There's certain people that I'll talk to, and I'll have a ton of issues. And there's some people I talk to, I have no issues. And you're special. I might have to send you a
problem.
I might have I know. Oh yeah. I'm trying to be coy about you being a bad person. No, what I mean is later I might have to send you a link because it's going to record on your side, and then you have to send it back over because I might have to like meld them together. We'll see what happens. This is going to be a fun one. I don't care. Either way, if I have to cut a little bit here, a little bit there, I'm going to have a lot of work ahead of me. Thank you, Spirit Realm, for messing with my recording. Anyhow,
right.
So you were seeing shadow figures in the middle of the day.
Yeah. In the daytime. Yep. in the daytime.
What, like behind trees on the
Yeah,
path?
they were in the woods. They were standing in the woods. Yeah, it was sun shining, but there was just one black spot. And I was like, what is that? I could visually see it. My camping friend, she couldn't visually see it, but it did show up in her pictures, but it didn't show up in mine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just really weird. It was really weird. Then we went to a cemetery out there. And when we got to the cemetery, now I think I did send you these pictures. We got out to the cemetery and she's looking on the ground and she's thinking she's seeing some little prints. But the first one she was pointing out, I didn't think were anything. But there was a 1970s metal chain link fence with a top metal bar that went around the very top of it that surrounded the cemetery. And where she was looking, this fence had been pushed down. The top bar is full metal and it was busted. And the fence was pushed up like someone very heavy had taken their hand, pushed down on that top metal bar and bent the bottom as they were climbing over the fence.
Okay.
So I got to look close, found a huge print right there.
Okay.
It was a huge print. I sent you that picture. I put my shoe size beside it.
There it is.
It's not that one. It's the other one.
Oh God, I don't have that one.
Oh, it's okay. That's okay.
But you know what?
This one was.
Sure.
You want me to tell about that one?
Yes, we'll tell her this.
That one was found in Boswell Landing.
Okay, so
in October.
Okay.
This was October of 2024. We were down there for a big camp out, and this was right there in Boswell Landing, because we camped there again, a big group of us, and I found that there. And Letitia Nunley, Bart's wife, she found a couple more prints in the general area, but that one was the most distinct because you can see the toes at the top of it.
It's a right foot.
Exactly. And I'm a shoe size 8.5.
Okay. So that's, oh wow. You can, and the heel kind of comes around, curves to the left there. So it's,
yeah.
Wow. What is, I don't know. What is 8.5 inches? I don't even know what that is. I lived in Europe for 20 years and now I'm here in Mexico. So I always had these shoe sizes. Like in Europe, I'm a 45 and here I'm a 30. So in the States, I'm somewhere between a 12 and a 13.
Okay. So that print size would probably be just a little bit bigger than that in your size.
So it wasn't a large one.
It was not a huge one. No, the other one that we found in the cemetery was absolutely huge. And where that fence was bent, we made sure that no tree had fallen. If a tree had fallen on that and somebody had come in to clean that tree up, there would have been leaves left over. There would have been little limbs left. They're not going to pick up every single little piece if they need to saw a tree off a fence.
Well, how tall is the fence? How tall is the fence?
Oh, it was just your typical, probably about 5-foot fence. It wasn't real tall.
So that's like something like kind of like you. So what you're trying to suggest is like they would like kind of like step over.
Yes. Like it pushed down that top bar and busted it to step over top of it. Yeah.
And right there was a print.
Right there was a print. There was a partial print as well, but it wasn't. You couldn't see it as well in a photograph as the big one.
Like for the skeptical people out there, like how do you explain that one? So this cemetery is in the middle of nowhere, right?
Right. It's in in the middle of LBL.
So who's out there with barefooted, stepping over a fence into a cemetery or vice versa, or out of a cemetery, barefooted with that size feet? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
There's only one logical explanation at this point. Now, where these things come from, what they are, there's, I'm sure you have your idea, speculation. I'm guessing you're thinking Nephilim. I'm just going to guess off the top of my head.
I do. Yeah. I think it's a lower hierarchy of the Nephilim.
Okay.
In my opinion. Um, uh, the way I have had experience and the way things act. And I know other people have their ideas too, and I just think all of us can contribute what we have experienced and learn from each other. But for
Right.
me, needing bullet pointers, I was able to find it there. It's a DNA manipulation.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's I don't think there's any wrong or right answers until there's some type of definitiveness to it, and then when
Right.
it comes to any type of scientific, like
Absolutely.
this is what it is,
Yeah.
even then I'm still skeptical because
Right. Exactly.
I've had people on who say, okay, if Nephilim are fallen angels, that means they're then somewhat like, naturally or whatever you want to call evil. But these things have helped me heal myself. And they've always said, be careful, there's a dogman around through mind speak. So, and he's a very religious person too. And he's like, I don't think it is. So, I think everyone, you know what I mean? We should just, long as we're open, it's okay to stand on the
Right.
fence and lean to one side or the other about anything. But this is where
Yeah.
this is where the path is leading you to because I'm not out there, you're out there. I think it's fine. Who cares? You know what I mean? But a lot of people
Yeah.
get, they get very huffy and puffy about things, and I don't think that's the
Yeah.
way to do anything. It's human nature, and
Right.
hopefully we get past that. But yeah,
I know.
what are these things? In like the LBL is also known like as, I mean, I got to be honest with you, like it's probably like I would say the Dogman hotspot of
Yeah.
like the world, really. I mean, you hear occasionally in other places, but like I mean, there's so many stories come out of this. It's big, but really it's not that big. It's 40 miles long. We'll say 50 miles long and what, 15, 20 miles wide at the most.
It's probably about 8 miles wide, and it has
wow.
over 170,000 acres to it.
Okay, so it's not
And
that large.
No, it's not huge, but it is
Right.
enclosed by 2 really big lakes, which is
Right.
a little interesting concept.
Water. It's got everything you need there. It's got bad history. It's got water. It used to be flowing water, which is also even better. So it's got that. It's got all these cemeteries.
Yep.
It's got Civil War. It's got slave. It's got China. It's got all this. It's got two groups of people being removed forcefully, and then it's and that you can't. Do they still?
Broken.
Yeah. Do they still allow people to hunt in there?
Say that again.
Do they still allow people to hunt in there?
Yes, they do have hunting times in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Usually it starts up because they have turkey season, and then they also have deer season, and then they run where you can hunt for elk, but they keep that to a minimum. It's like you have to do a lottery to get a ticket to go in and hunt for elk. But yeah, they definitely have hunting seasons down there. Yes.
And the people in the area that live there, because you know a lot about it. I'm so interested in the area. Whenever I make enough money with this podcast, I suppose, because I'm broke as hell. I left everything to avoid getting the Jabarooski. That's why I came to Mexico.
Yeah.
I was living in Germany, and they were like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to take this." And me and my ex-wife were like, "No, we're not," and we left everything. House.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah,
don't blame you.
And it turns out I'm right, and so that's fine. According to my limited, I don't know, Anywho, yeah, it's just one of those areas that it's just interesting crap out of that one in Eastern Tennessee. It's just one of those, like Scott Carpenter's area. It's like, what is this? This place is crazy. So, what are the people around the areas? There's many little towns and stuff around there. What are they telling you about? Do they go in, or is it like just known, or is this like under the radar? It's not like Roswell, but it's got to be something like that.
No, I think most of the descendants of the families that lived there and removed from there, they're not real fond of the Beast of LBL story. There are a handful that will talk about it that have come into LBL to look.
This is the family of 4, right? The Beast of LBL story is the family of 4 that went camping that just were.
Yeah, in
There, like
$1982.
one was found up a tree. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the way the story goes. Is what the little girl was found in the tree, according
Right.
to the story.
According to the
Yeah.
story, yeah. So I did have
Hmm.
I did have a gentleman on who wrote the Beast of the LBL, Steve Caldwell or Coswell. Yeah, I had him on too. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I know the story. Then it was on a campground, and now the campground is like, I think it's blocked off, isn't it?
You can walk down in there. I've walked down in there multiple times. Um, I do a lot of camping, and I've done tent camping. We have our camper, so I've done both of those. And of course, the area could definitely have been reclaimed by the forest. But if you walk down in there, to your right side, you will start seeing some foundations, some block foundations that are left. Um, there's two loops. So if it was a campground, it was really small. But like I said, part of it could have been overgrown and just the forest took it back. At the end of it, there are two, what a lot of people will refer to as the bunkers, and they are two concrete block buildings, and they're not very big. One of them, to me, does look like a water cistern. I will say that. It does look like a water cistern. The other one, I don't know what it is. When you see it, it's concrete block. It's covered on top. It has rebar in it
Okay.
because some of the concrete has worn away, and you can see that it was made with rebar. And the doorway is facing the hill. So who is making a building where you walk into it, but you've got to squeeze in? I mean, not like it's a tight fit, but yeah, there's a hill, and then there's the doorway, and there's no hinges. It's just concrete block, and it's I don't know what that is. So
Okay.
I've heard different theories about that. I've seen it multiple times, been in it multiple times. Just don't know what that could have been used for. And
There seems to
that
be
is odd.
there seems to be a lot of investigators that go into this area, like at a certain
Yeah.
time of the year. At a certain time of the year, they tend to go a lot. You know, I was talking to Daryl Denton and many others about this
Yeah.
area. It's just one of those places. And then, like when I seen you on the Magical Journey podcast, you were camping literally right in front of it.
Yeah,
And I was
right.
like, check her out. I was like, check
Yeah.
her out. I gotta talk to her. I gotta have her on.
Yeah. We were there later that night and just sitting to listen. And there were footsteps that just kept walking around our car. We never saw anybody. And get this was weird. While we're sitting there, I'm with my husband, I'm with my daughter, who is 36, and we're hearing these footsteps. She's got her phone on recording, and she keeps saying, "Are you hearing those footsteps?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Well, then all of a sudden, I start hearing a hum. And I'm like, "What is that hum?" And I asked my daughter, I said, "Do you hear that?" She said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "You know what? That sounds like a frequency." The next morning, there was an earthquake in Tennessee. They reported the
Whoa.
earthquake in Tennessee. Mm-hmm.
Whoa. That's weird. That's
Yeah. I didn't
so.
know what it was, you know. It was like
Yeah,
1 a.m.
I just
And I
watched
was
a
like, what am
movie.
I hearing?
I just watched that movie Phenomenon with John Travolta, where he was
John
able to tell
Travolta.
that he was able to tell that there was a an earthquake. So you guys are out there doing John Travolta movie stuff.
But
The
that was weird. And
next time
and
Bell
then to
Bottoms is Saturday Night Fever, but I'm sorry. Please, I'll stop.
start doing the Saturday Night Fever dance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And something else that was really weird. In December, my daughter went to Tennessee, and she walked that path that Scott Carpenter caught the portal on. When she got back to her hotel room, now she did it during the day, but when she got back to her hotel room, her leg was aching a little bit. Her upper thigh was aching a little bit. She thought it was just, we'd hiked this trail. We're in the mountains. We're hiking. I haven't been doing much exercise. My muscles going to hurt. A week later, she was in the bed, deathly ill, and she ended up with cat scratch fever bacteria, and I went with her to have that lanced, and the amount of infection that came out of that, and it came out of nowhere. The doctor was like, I haven't seen this in years. And it was really weird. And the doctor asked her, well, do you have a cat? She's like, well, it stays in the garage and it's declawed, and I don't really have it, it's not in the house, it's not in my lap. She didn't have any cuts on her because the doctor said that you can get the cat scratch bacteria from any animal. And she does have dogs, and she said, well, maybe the dogs licked your leg and you had a little cut, and that's what caused that bacteria. But it was so bad that it killed one of her lymph nodes in her leg. And
oh my Lord.
yeah. And as she's had it lanced twice, she's had multiple ultrasounds on it because they're watching that lymph node. We just thought the timing was really weird. It just came out of nowhere. And the first time she noticed the pain was after walking that trail.
Right. So this trail is Scott Carpenter. This video you can find on his channel.
Yes.
There's a video of him seeing a portal on his channel.
Yes.
Oh my Lord, I'm sleeping over here. I didn't know that was.
Yes.
I knew about the one where he's like walking, and it's like, I don't know, like 40 minutes into the video, and you just see this Bigfoot just like run behind him. Or like run. That one scared the living bejesus out of me. But I didn't know there was a portal video. Okay, I'm gonna have to. All right, I gotta do some homework. So you're gonna continue to go down to this area, or like, so what is the next plans for you? You're gonna be writing another book, or what is it that you're gonna be doing?
Yes, I am writing another book, and it's going to be about our generational paranormal events that have happened through my life. Because I think it's centered around my mom and my biological dad, because they delved into it, and I think they opened up.
Like Ouija boards or something?
They did. They did that. They had seances. My paternal grandmother was into the paranormal very deeply. So she passed it on to her son, which was my dad. And my mom started messing with it when she married my biological dad. So it's a generational thing. And so I'm going to write about that.
Wow. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. I've been to the LBL twice this year. Plan on going back soon. And that other area in Anderson County, Kentucky. Now, Small Town Monsters has done 2 documentaries on that area in Anderson County, Kentucky. This is another small area, but it is had years of Bigfoot sightings, and it's close to Taylorsville Lake. So if anyone is familiar with Anderson County and Taylorsville Lake, Wildcat Road, it's just years worth of sightings, and not only Bigfoot, but orbs, ghost stories. And I will tell you that every single time I have been to this area, we have picked something up. I get light anomalies every single time I've gone down there. The light anomalies are crazy. And those pictures that I sent you that show some things are from that area. And we're going to go back there in just a couple of weeks.
This here?
Yes.
With this figure standing in the whatever that is? This is in Anderson County or whatever?
That's in Anderson County, Kentucky. Yes. We do not know what that is. We went back. We did not see it. But what happened was we were heading to a different area, and we heard the coyotes starting. So we stopped and started taking pictures because we heard the coyotes. I took a picture at, I think it was 10:37 p.m. I believe it was. And there was nothing in my picture. 2 minutes later, my daughter took a picture. That's my picture.
Right.
And you don't see it in that. You don't see anything. It is a little bit blurry, though, compared to the pictures over the trees over to the left. This is the picture my daughter took 2 minutes later.
There's also a fog. There's also like a fog there.
Yeah. Now, this was in November of 24, and it was the night of the supermoon.
Alpha Santa Riga. It's Alfred Rodriguez always talks about the supermoon. What's interesting, it looks like it's standing there with its shoulder, like it's like in kind of like body derision, like just looking at you, like, all right, take your picture. So it's just what it strikes me as, is like, all right, like your mom's washing dishes, and you're like, turn around, mom, take a picture, and like she's all right, and it's what it looks like to me. And whatever it is, it's quite striking.
No, we don't know what that is. What's interesting is we went back the next weekend so we could go back during the day and do some comparison pictures. My daughter, who is about 5'6", she walked down, and the tree farthest to the right that's kind of leaning a little bit,
yep,
she was barely up from the grass on that tree. So that thing had to have been like 12 to 15 feet tall. I'm not kidding you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That because of perspective, because you can't, there's nothing really to give you a perspective of the height of the tree there. Okay. I understand.
Right. Wow. Now I do have a video on my Cryptic Kentucky channel that shows these pictures, and it shows us going back and her walking down there for the comparison pictures of what that looked like and how tiny she was compared to whatever that was standing there.
What can you tell me about, Anna? What can you tell me about this picture?
Okay, it's the same area, and we do a lot of investigating with War Criminal. I don't know if you've heard War Criminal's name before, but he does a lot of investigating with us, and he kept telling us, I'm seeing a dark figure back here in the woods. And so I just started snapping pictures. And this is blown up a little bit, but over to the left, that dark figure, it looks like it's got legs. That looks like a shadow figure to me.
It looks like it's pigeon-toed. Looks like it's standing pigeon-toed.
Yeah, it does.
Weird.
And then over to the right, in between the split of that lighter colored tree, you see a face, and it's very Bigfoot-like.
Up about 3/4 of the way up.
Yeah.
So okay. I want to try to tie this together. So, you going out and doing this investigations and meeting with these people has been helping you deal with your lifetime of paranormal activity. It helps you.
It has helped
step forward.
Yeah, it is. And for my daughter too. My daughter is very much of an empath, and she has lived with paranormal events through her life. Multiple times when she was growing up, she had things happen to her, and she was very scared. And I coaxed her into coming with me to the LBL. And even though she was absolutely terrified to the point she wanted to puke at times, she has overcome her fear.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, the paranormal scares the crap out of me. But I think a cryptid would scare me even more, because it's like in your it's like it's right there, and everyone's like, yeah, see it. And I don't know, man. I don't know how do you do this? So it helps you overcome your fear by confronting it. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, and to know that for me, in my opinion, and just for me personally, I know that they have to. They're bound by rules. In my opinion, for me, that's how it's worked out for me personally. If I call on the name Jesus Christ, they leave me alone.
Oh, I've heard this before, and I am not a Christian, but I am a man of God. People know that if you know my channel. And there's been times where I've experienced things I bought 10 acres in the middle of the jungle here, and I've heard voices and seen there's some weird shit. Excuse my language. There's some weird stuff out there too. And there was a time where I had to do it as well. And I do know the power of that name and the power that it holds and the sway that it holds over this. Don't know what that means, but that's okay with me. And I'm sure it's okay with you. And if it helps, which I know it does, because I was just like, hey, big JC, help me out here, bro. Like, come on, let's, because I've been hearing about it, about rebuking and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Scott Carpenter was big about rebuking, and Daryl Denton
Right.
had to rebuke these from his
Yeah.
property. And I was like, okay, so I kind of know a little bit about it. I was like, okay, for this instance, it wasn't, this is nothing against anyone's religion or their beliefs.
Right.
I'm not using it as like well, I got a Band-Aid now, I'll just go ahead and rip that off. It's not like that. It's just like, okay, let's see if this holds any sway. And it does.
Right.
So I believe you. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
There's people like, Jim Powell from the Night's Watch, who is like, all these things are demonic. It's all of it's demonic, dude. Trust me. Don't play with it. And I go, I don't know if it's all demonic. I don't know what it is, but I won't play with it. Is that fair enough? He goes, okay, Tom, we're good. So, and I think, and
there is a flip side of the coin to that. If we're out there antagonizing, if that's the way these entities feel. Now, I'm of the opinion that all of this is connected. The paranormal, and humanoid cryptids, the UFO phenomena, the orbs. Yes, I think it's all connected, in my opinion. I know others, I totally respect others' opinions because everybody has had different experiences.
Exactly.
We've had different experiences. For me, the studies that I have done has linked it all together for me. And so I feel like I have answers for myself, and I feel much better about that. But there is that flip side. You're out there, and should you be out there taunting, if that's what these things may consider it, should you really be doing that? But the LBL is, for a lot of people, it calls to them.
Yeah, but at the same time, like for Martin Groves, he wasn't taunting. He was just out there hunting, and he just got hit in the face with a sledgehammer with whatever this is out there. So, like, how is he taunting?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're
he wasn't taunting, and I wasn't mean that people go out there to do that specifically. I'm wondering if the entities sometimes feel like, well, here they are out here again trying to mess with us. That's
right. They don't know the difference. Yeah, I understand what you mean too. It's just I didn't mean it that way. I don't infer that at all. That's not what I mean by that. It's just like when you hear taunting. So just as for the listening audience, like you're like, you watch these ghost shows, like, oh, show yourself, say something, and it's just so impersonal. Like if let's say let's just go through the it's all connectable. When you say paranormal, it kind of puts you in this little box. When people go into these houses and these places and these sanitariums and these old jails and stuff, they're going to lost my train of thought there. But like, at one time, if you subscribe to any of this, or ascribe, one of those two words, you would know that it's at some point in time, if you believe these are an entity, that they were human too. And you should still, wherever they are, whatever this is, I think you should always do it with a certain matter of respect. And it's important. Excuse me. Yeah, this has been one of those interviews where it's all over the map. It's just basically we're just kind of like talking to each other as if like we're at a Waffle House right now. And we're just and we don't know what's going on. It's just one of those things. I don't even know what we're gonna. I don't even know what the title of the show, but it's just been fun to talk with you. It's been very fun to talk with you because I it's like a moniker of the show. I always enjoy people doing what it is that they enjoy doing. If it's for confronting your fears and doing this helps you in your life and makes you become one with yourself, center yourself. I'm a little more Eastern mysticism in the way I think about things. But if it helps you become closer to Christ or whatever it is that you believe in, or it helps you come with some answers because now you can kind of look at it through an adult's eye, or have friends with you, or like, it's okay. This is okay. I think that is just awesome. And I really appreciate that you came on and talked with me today, even though we had 20 minutes of like, I can't hear you, Tom.
and in Greg Ogle's film, I had a short interview.
Okay.
Land Between the Lakes. Me and Letitia we had an interview because we had a crazy experience in May of 23 when we were down there. We saw something down there. We don't know what it was. We don't know how to classify it. That night was crazy. Do you have time for me to talk about that?
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay, so this was May of the first weekend of May of 23, I believe it was. There was a full moon that weekend too. It was about 11 o'clock at night. There was a group of us camping, and we decided, let's go out and let's do some investigating. So there was two cars, a war criminal and Gabby and Elijah Henderson, and then me and Michelle and Letitia. And we got out there, we drove the trace. As we're driving down the trace, things felt really heavy that night. And we saw the moon in the distance, and it was like bright orange, almost red. And the clouds around it were lit up, with that orange color. And it as soon as we made a turn and we saw that moon in front of us, all three of us were like, oh, because it was so pretty. I did take some pictures, but taking pictures of the moon on your cell phone just does not do it justice at all.
I understand.
So it didn't pick it up really good. So as we're going down the trace, War Criminal is behind us at this point. The animals started coming out of the forest to the trace, to the road. It's a 2-lane road, no emergency lanes. I'm not kidding you. We probably saw hundreds of deer that night along the road. I don't know how many times we had to swerve to miss a deer. There was a beaver in the middle of the road that we had to swerve and miss. Behind us, War Criminal stopped his truck in the middle of the road so Elijah could get out and film this beaver that was in the middle of the road. It wasn't run over or nothing. It was just sitting there. We saw bats. We saw multiple owls flying. It was just what felt like the animals were being pushed out of the woods towards the road. So we drive all the way down to Boswell Landing. We get out. We do a little investigating there. Every picture I tried to take down there turned out like a big cloud was sitting in front of my camera, and I didn't get anything. So War Criminal and Gabby and Elijah took off to go to Dover. And the three of us started headed back up the trace to go back to our camp, our campground. And as we're driving the trace, there's still all these animals out. So we've seen a bat. We know what they look like. We've seen the owls flying past us that night. We knew it was an owl. There was something sitting on the side of the road. I don't know what it was, but it had red, piercing eyes looking right at us. I'm talking laser red. It caught our attention. All three of us hit the brakes. We were like, what is that? It was beside a guardrail. It looked like it raised up a little bit. It unfurled its wings and looked exactly like bat wings. Did not flap its wings, twisted up and shot out of sight. We don't know what that was.
Wow, I mean, my first reaction would be, it sounds like Mothman.
That's what Letitia, when we got back to camp, we got out of the car, was like, oh my gosh. And Letitia's like, we just saw Mini Mothman.
Mini.
She called it Mini Mothman. And so we're talking about that. And
sounds like
we're
an Austin Powers movie mixed with the paranormal.
So it was just so weird. And we started looking up. I know Krista from Blondes and Booze was there, and she starts looking up. Yeah, she was looking up, trying to figure out, was there an animal in LBL that may have looked like that? Was any lore about the area, about anything like that? We couldn't find anything. And so we're talking about that, and we mentioned the moon, how the moon was just bright orange, almost red. And Martin Groves and Bart was sitting there, and they looked at us and said, what are y'all talking about? The moon was just white. We're like, no, it wasn't. It was bright freaking orange. And they're like, it's never been that color. We've been sitting here at camp. Krista and Brandy were there. They all said the moon has been white all night. But while we were out on the trace, that's not what we saw. And even War Criminal, Gabby, and Elijah saw the moon bright orange as well. So here we are about 10 minutes later. we're talking about Mini Mothman. We're talking about the moon being different colors. All of a sudden, here comes War Criminal. Gabby gets out of the car and she goes, "We just saw the beast of LBL." It had crossed over in front of them as they were coming back up to the campsite.
Oh my God.
And
That is scary, man.
Gabby talks about her sighting in that Small Town Monsters thing on LBL.
Okay. So how big was this thing? If you said it was a mini Mothman, how large was it?
It
If you had to
looked
guess.
like it wasn't much taller than the guardrail. So I want to say it probably wasn't over 3 feet tall.
Wow.
It wasn't very tall.
Wow.
It was kind of hunched down and went up like this, unfurled those wings. Like I said, never flapped those wings, and its body twisted real quick, and it just shot up like a missile out of sight. We don't know what that was, but it mostly reminded us of like a mini Mothman.
That's a new one. That's a new one.
I know.
I had a gentleman on. He's the representative of the North American Dogman Project from Mississippi, Marcus Ellis, and he like, it's just, I haven't heard that before, and I'm mentioning what I mentioned because I never heard what he told me before either. He, in the middle of the woods, he saw. I talked to him yesterday actually. He saw an 8 foot by 8 foot black cube in the middle of the woods on the road. He drove, he parked off to the side, walked out to the road a little ways, looked, and it was there, got freaked out, went back to his truck. By the time he started his truck to drive out, it disappeared. No tire tracks, no nothing, because it rained the night before and the only tire tracks were his. So there's more out there than I think what they say, the universe is not, it's not stranger than you suppose, it's stranger than you can suppose. You've heard of this?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're experiencing. It's a kind of a human nature to like want to know what all this is, because it's not supposed to exist.
The Bible says nothing is new under the sun.
Under the sun.
What will be again.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of hinting towards like Revelations or something.
It's all, well, no, just that it's all been here. It's all here.
Okay. It's all here.
Just these things are here, and we either aren't seeing them. I think they're coming up out of portals.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think there's window areas.
Oh, Greg Ogle's seen an interesting portal. The one where he actually walked to the side, and like he's seen the angle of it, and then he got back. It said it was like daylight. It was like a yellowish arc, like it was like another dimension. And maybe that's some of this 411 stuff where it's just, Trey Hudson and the Meadow Project and what he's running into and the craziness word, it's, you have to sign an NDA. I always want to say NDE, but it's NDA. Near death experience and non-disclosure agreement. They're two different things, Tom. They're not mutually exclusive. And, and it's just, I think a lot of this things have always been here, like you're saying. It's just now, instead of us, we're being an American, we can, instead of like scratching to feed ourselves, like where I'm in the world here, like people are having a hard time just feeding themselves because of how bad the economic situation is. So they don't even see it. Down here it's more like witches and witchcraft and weird stuff down here. A lot of death cult stuff. With the mixture of Catholicism and Mayan stuff. It's a little weird down here too. It's this. I went to a cemetery recently here. You never seen nothing like that. There is no planning whatsoever. You can't get to other tombs without walking on other tombs. It's impossible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's spooky as hell, dude. So, so these places that are like kind of like out of the way, like protected, we haven't gone in there. It still has that gnosis of the original time, even when like the Native Americans are here, and we're running into it again. We're like, okay, so on the weekends we don't have to like work because to feed our family, we can actually go do leisure activities, and then people are going into the forest, and we're running into this stuff. And I think the government knows about it, and they're just
I do
I,
too.
I you know what I mean? Like if Israel, that's what's going on in the world right now, guys. If Israel can like bomb nuclear scientists and know where they are, or have the leader of the government or whatever, not that guy, but the one below him, 4 days later also be offed because they know where he is. You mean to tell me the U.S.
Yeah,
government doesn't know that there's cryptids running around in the forest and Mothman, and
absolutely.
it has to be. And the reason for it is probably because we're not ready for it, or some probably to do with money. But I don't know. It's a weird world, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the odd. I enjoy the oddity of it. What about you?
Yes, I do enjoy it. And for me, getting out and doing the investigating has allowed me to be more confident in myself
Great.
and reach an understanding. And that's what my entire life was, what I was looking for, was an understanding. And for me personally, I have found that understanding for myself of what this
That's
stuff
great.
is for me personally.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to say. Do you also imagine there's times where it's not all spooky and creepy? That's two words mixed together there. Spooky. My girlfriend's laughing at me over here. It's speaky. Uh, there's also moments where you're not in sheer terror, or
Mhm.
talking to somebody or investigating. You're just kind of in the woods by yourself, sitting there, and you also probably have that deep connection with your creator as well, I'd imagine, because that's what I do. You know,
Yes.
I
Was
love being in the forest. I love it.
Yes, it is. It is a beautiful place. There
Yes.
was one evening that we went to the last residence home of LBL. That's a sad story. Um, they tried to
Oh,
kick him
a
out.
holdout. A holdout. Okay.
Yes, he was a military veteran, and he came home. You know,
Great.
back then they called it shell shocked,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
he had
Post traumatic
PTSD.
stress disorder.
Right, and he just wanted to be home. He wanted to be at his childhood home, and they kept removing him from that home. And eventually, um, I don't know if it was the Forestry Service that had the say so at that point in time, or if it was still the TVA that had control over LBL at that time. But they just allowed him to stay at home. And that house is still standing in LBL. It's falling down, but it's got a fence around it. You can't go inside it. So we went there at night. And while we're standing out there, now this is close to Fort Campbell too.
Okay.
LBL is close to Fort Campbell. I'm with War Criminal and another lady, and it's
I heard
dark. There's no lights, nothing. Black Hawk comes over and strobes us while we're standing there.
Wow, because Fort Campbell is the home of the air assault. Air assault.
Yeah,
I'm a
Fire.
former vet myself. I didn't go to Fort Campbell, but I know about it. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. There's so many
Well, that was weird.
instances. Oh, black helicopters all the time. Alex Jones. Oh, there's black helicopters, ladies and gentlemen. That's my
Mhm.
great impersonation, if you ask me. And, and this guy, he says so many things, but there's been so many instances where, like, a Bigfoot will show up or something like that, or you'll go to a location and the men in black pull you over. You can't go there no more, or there's these
Mhm.
helicopters. So I
Mhm.
don't even think that Fort Campbell being there is a thing. I think you just ran into an area that what are they doing? What would they be doing? Some type of exercise or something like that? And they just go, let's
Maybe
go to
some
this guy's
maneuvers.
house.
I
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know, but it was
that
weird.
makes
We
sense.
could hear them doing maneuvers in the distance. You could hear, they were
Okay,
setting
that's
off
probably
some
what it was
stuff.
then.
But
Yeah.
to fly that helicopter over where we were and then strobe us as we're standing on the ground, I was actually filming at the time, and I put it on pause because we had a voice box out and we were trying to get uh, something to come through.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, we won't film you if you'll talk to us. So I paused. And as soon as I paused, here comes that helicopter, and we're all lit up from being strobed by this
Just
helicopter.
and then it goes, and then like the paranormal entity there is like, well, I guess I'm not going to talk now. I mean, it's like kind of like lights, camera, action, and then like like vaudeville with the light shining down on the
Yeah.
stage, and you're just like, I'm out.
Yeah, that was weird, and I was fumbling with my phone trying to hit the pause to unpause it so I could start videoing again, and I got it going away, but I didn't catch it as we were being lit up while they did that when they flew over us. It was weird. Just stuff like that happens all the time down in there. Like when I was being interviewed by Daniel, here comes a ranger because there's a missing persons down there.
Right, I remember that. I was actually on that live watching you talk. And he was very nice. He was very cordial. He was just like, "Ma'am, what do you out here?" "Oh, I'm doing a live stream." And he's like, "Yeah, there's a person out here we're looking for. Have you seen a truck driving down the road?" You're like, "No, I haven't seen anything." So there's so many like ripped up tents there. Like just people just like flock to that area for some reason. It's a weird place.
Yeah, we have found clothes just laying. It's just weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know what to call it. I'm going to call this one Stories from the LBL. That's what I'm going to call it. It's just an amalgamation of stuff. So, Anna, I really appreciate you coming on this evening. It's been a blast. I'm glad that I was able to make you laugh. We were a little uncomfortable at the beginning trying to get this audio situation fixed, but it all turned out, and I'm glad to have met you. It's been very pleasant. I really appreciate it. Could you please do me a favor? Send me all your links you want to send me, for your books, and send me that Scott Carpenter link that we were talking about. I got to look at that.
Okay, I will.
Okay, so I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on one more time. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. So that was Anna. She has 3 names, and the last one's Jones. Caywood.
You can just say Anna Jones is fine.
Anna, that was Anna Caywood Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, we are the eye. We are aware. I love you all, and you have yourself a wonderful day.